From Yellowhammer News, this is One Day at a Time, presented by Longleaf Recovery and Wellness. Join me, Laurie Dhue, as I speak with industry leaders about the challenges and solutions surrounding substance use disorder and mental health issues facing so many people here in Alabama. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of One Day at a Time, where we are putting a priority on having important conversations about addiction and mental health here in Alabama. I'm your host, Laurie Dhue, and I have 17 years of continuous recovery. Joining me today is Colin Harris, CEO of Longleaf Recovery and Wellness here in Birmingham. Colin Harris, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm super happy to be here. I appreciate y'all including me in this.
Oh my gosh, we wouldn't have it any other way. You have a great story yourself, and Longleaf has a great story. We'll get into Longleaf in a moment, but first, I want to start with you. So, Colin, how long have you been in recovery, and what do you love most about it?
So I have a little over 6 years in sobriety. You know, I tell you the things that watching my life change and evolve over these last 6 years, and the things that have come true in my life that I never even thought were remotely possible. It's just been an incredible journey. From starting Longleaf in Birmingham Recovery Center to marrying my wife to, our 2 daughters to this, just sense of peace that I have, purpose, motivation. These are the things that I never thought were possible. And it's just been an incredible journey.
You mentioned purpose. That is so important. And I feel like when we're out there drinking and kind of leading these tumultuous lives, we feel like we don't have a sense of purpose. But once we enter recovery, we start thinking about all the possibilities in life.
I'm glad you picked up on that, the purpose thing. That is probably over time, over these last 6 years, been the single most important piece of my recovery journey. Somehow, in kind of a window of grace early on in my recovery journey, kind of really tapped into this whole purpose and motivation thing. And I think that's been probably the most integral part of this journey that I've been on. It's also a constantly evolving piece. And so I have to continuously practice this awareness around what motivates me. What is my purpose? Because it changes over time. And if I'm not aware of that, then I can lose sight of what's important.
And for you, you have created a beautiful family for yourself. And before you got sober, did you think that was even possible?
No. It was impending feeling of loneliness comes with being in active addiction. And, that went with for my actual family, my blood family, who, were there and supported me along the way, but, we're also finally got to a point where they were setting healthy boundaries. And I really had kind of lost my relationship with them. And then, the quote unquote family outside of that just didn't exist whatsoever. And getting into recovery and building a community within that really became a second family to me has just been incredibly important.
You use that word community. And we also talk about connection and how important those things are. What does connection look like to you?
It's a great question. For me, early on in my recovery journey, my sponsor, the sponsor that I had if I get more into my story, there was a lot of times I attempted to get sober. And right there at the end, I had a phenomenal sponsor while I was getting sober in Atlanta, who stressed the importance to me of just 3, 4, 5 guys. That was it. That was all I needed. And he encouraged me to go find those 3 or 4 people that I could tell everything to. And those guys, I identified a few of them within this Atlanta recovery community. I got, if I fast forward a little bit, a few years ago, I got married. And I had 8 guys standing up there with me, groomsmen, and 5 of those guys, now today, 6 of them, another one ended up getting sober, but 5 of those guys at the time were in recovery. And those were guys that I had made connections with in early sobriety, that were just such a key part of getting me there. These were my people. These were my friends. These were another family to me that knew more about me than anyone else on this planet. And could call me out on things when I needed to be called out on things. And they were all had a little bit more sobriety than me, except one who was right. He was actually my roommate and sober living at the time. They were just so vitally important to getting me to where I'm at today.
And it's that accountability that other people provide, right? For me, that's been key in my recovery, is connecting with other women who keep me accountable, who keep me sober. Not only women in the 12-step program, but also my best friends who are they themselves are not in recovery, but they've supported me every step of the way. Right.
Yes.
So the accountability is important, isn't it?
Extremely, very much so. It's important to have a few people that I can bounce things off of, important life decisions, who can give me honest feedback, who can tell me if I'm going in the wrong direction. And, and all of us, at the same time we're all living our lives. We're all going through the same things. We're all, are having kids or having issues at work or anything. And we're all having this shared experience together of living life after this difficult journey we've all been on together to get to where we're at. And it's really a beautiful thing.
The journey is beautiful. It's not easy every day. As I like to say, it's not sunshine and unicorn and lollipops every day, but it's so much better than where we were before we got sober. This life of purpose and meaning and helping other people. And that's what it's about. But I want to move this to why you started Longleaf. And I think your story is interesting because you had to go out of the state of Alabama to get treatment. And then you realized, wait a minute, that's not okay. We have to do something about this and create something special here in Alabama.
Yes. I started trying to get clean and sober in Alabama about 17 years ago. At the time, we had more programs in Alabama then than we did when we opened Birmingham Recovery Center back in 2021. There was very limited options. My family only knew so much. We were all very new to this. And I went through the couple of programs that we had here in this state. And, it just didn't click. It didn't catch at the time. And so I ended up eventually going out of state. And I will say it was a very long journey for me. I went to treatment really all over the Southeast for a period of about a decade. I was in and out. It was a constant struggle. But what we realized is that, if we look at Atlanta, for example, I went to treatment in Atlanta and I had an unsuccessful attempt there. And then it was, okay, well, let's see if there's another option. And next thing you know, we look around and there's tons of options. There's borderline unlimited options. And that was the first time that it really clicked to me that, something interesting is happening in Alabama. We don't have as many options as any of the states around us. And that was kind of a bug was planted in the back of my head at that point in time. And then I, over the years, I eventually got into an incredible community in the Atlanta area. It was a combination of multiple things. Everyone always asks me, what was it? What did it for you? What finally clicked? And I wish that was something that I could bottle up and give to everyone, but it was complicated. I was in an incredible treatment program in Atlanta. I surrounded myself with the right people and got plugged into a great community, a 12-step community that was fantastic. I was in therapy. A number of things came together. And I finally got sober. And after a couple of years, I was, it really clicked to me that, man, Alabama needs another option. And at that point, put together a phenomenal group of people who had a lot of experience. And we came over here and we started Birmingham Recovery Center back in 2021.
How was and is Birmingham Recovery Center different just in terms of the approach, the facility? Your clinicians, the medical aspect. What is different about this place and what makes it so magical?
Yeah. So Birmingham Recovery Center is an outpatient program. It's a PHP IOP, which are basically just two fancy insurance terms: partial hospitalization program and intensive outpatient. Typically, these are people have an idea of what a PHP-IOP looks like in their head.
And what is that?
Unfortunately, it is in a strip mall or an office park of some sorts that, it's not very inviting. It's not very warm. There's metal chairs and drop-in ceilings. And, it's just not, they're typically understaffed. And in my experience, I would go off to residential treatment, to a great program that was nice, and they were doing a fantastic job there. And I would complete the program and they'd say, okay, well, you need to go do outpatient treatment. And so I would enroll in an outpatient program, and I'd get there and I'd be like, man, what is this? This is not.
It was just depressing.
It was just very cold. And clinical, kind of sterile feeling. Yeah, depressing. I think depressing is a good word.
And, we're already sensitive when we're in early recovery. And, so often, look, recovery happens, as we say, in church basements at 12-step meetings. And, for a lot of us, that's a great place. But what strikes me as different with your various facilities, and you've got 4 now, and it's fabulous, and we're going to talk about all of them, is just the warmth that you've created here. It's beautiful. You've created a safe environment full of people who are very qualified. So if you could talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, we're worthy of more, and we want our clients to feel worthy. And Birmingham Recovery Center it's a beautiful facility, and I want to, and that's just to keep. Environment is important. It's just a piece, but it is very, very important. And so that was kind of the first step with Birmingham Recovery Center, was finding a beautiful location, a beautiful facility. It used to be a wedding and event venue that was built in 2017. And it was a great opportunity for us to come in and get the property. And we had to make a few changes, and we turned it into an outpatient treatment facility. And BRC is kind of tucked back. It's secluded here in Birmingham, but really it's right in the heart of town. So it's very accessible. Our clients come and go every day. So that was really important to us. And we just we've got to be one of the only outpatient treatment facilities in the country that has marble floors, through half the building. But we are not just a pretty face. And that's very, very important to us. So we are, on top of that, we're backed up with 6 full-time master's level clinicians, LPCs, social workers, the whole 9 yards. On top of that, there's a full-time RN at BRC, as well as a full-time nurse practitioner, psych nurse practitioner. And then on top of that, there is a double-boarded psychiatrist. He's an addiction doctor and a psychiatrist who's there for about 10 hours a week. So we have a very, very heavy medical presence, psychiatric presence. And why this is so important, it is very rare. BRC's been open for a little over 3 years now. It's very rare that we get a client who doesn't have some type of co-occurring disorder along with the addiction.
When you say co-occurring disorder, I want to clarify that for people who may not know what that is. That is a mental health issue along with a substance use disorder.
Yes. It could be somebody who has a primary addiction issue, because that's important. There needs to be a primary substance use issue to be a client at BRC. But typically that comes with other things like depression, like anxiety, sometimes bipolar, sometimes schizophrenia. I mean, there are other things that come into play a lot of times that are paired with addiction that we want to make sure we're set up to treat and handle those patients.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Longleaf Recovery and Wellness. Longleaf Recovery and Wellness is elevating the standard for addiction and mental health treatment in Alabama, offering exceptional and personalized care at centers in Birmingham, Huntsville, and Baldwin County. Life-saving programs offered at Longleaf provide a path to real change and support for a restored life long-term. Learn more about Longleaf Recovery and Wellness at longleafcenters.com. A big thank you to our sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama and Southern Ketamine and Wellness. Just to get personal for a moment, I myself have always had depression. And I've been in recovery for 17 years now, but I still deal with depression. And I'm always very open about it because I think it helps when people decide to talk about their recovery and they decide to talk about their mental health issues. And I don't know which came first for me. It's like the chicken or the egg. I don't know if my depression led to my drinking, more drinking, or if my alcoholism created more depression. But I think so often it isn't just one thing or the other. Have you found that to be the case?
I struggled with the exact same thing you're talking about. And that's important for us to be able to figure out in our programs is what came first. And that's why we have such a strong medical presence. It's a key part of recovery. It's a key part of treatment. And we believe that a lot of programs out there, a lot of facilities similar to us who offer the same levels of care, it's just a piece that's been missing for a long time.
You and I were talking earlier, and you said that you think that this industry has a bad reputation of not treating the therapists well. And what's different is that Birmingham Recovery Center and Longleaf Wellness, you really take care of your staff here, and you've created that culture of support. Tell me what that means.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's the third part of what I believe that we do differently. You're exactly right. So when I first came into this, I was very, very new to this space, and I was quickly learning and trying to ingest everything about this industry. I almost hate to call it an industry.
It is an industry. Let's be honest.
It is. And one of the things that I kept hearing was that there's a high turnover rate. Therapists get burned out very quickly. They're not compensated very well. These are master's level people. And this was all very surprising to me. So from day one, we were going to take a very, very different approach to that. The key part of that was we were going to take care of our staff and we were going to create a culture that people loved being a part of. So we compensate our therapists extremely well. We have an incredible benefit package. We pay for trainings that they want to do. That's a key part. Therapists they got into this for a reason. It's something that they're passionate about. And some of them are passionate about different things. And if there is a modality or something new that's come about that you're interested in as a therapist, we want you to grow in that.
So you're prioritizing the growth and the evolution of the people who work here and supporting them when they want to learn new stuff, for lack of a better word.
Yes, absolutely. We something that's very, very important to me is that we are always on the front lines of this issue. This is an ever evolving field. We're learning new things every month, every year. And so it's important to me that in 20 years, we're not doing the same thing in 20 years from now that we're doing today, because the field's going to be different then. So we want to stay on top of what is new, what is working, what's not working. We're constantly looking at our own data to make informed decisions about that.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned, things that don't work. Why keep doing them? And I think that's a mistake that often happens in this industry is that, we've been doing the same thing for 20 years. We're just going to keep doing it. For instance, so many treatment centers stayed away from medication-assisted treatment for a long time. They were resistant to it. And then they realized, well, there might be some benefit for some people to it. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But to me, it would seem like when you are providing the kind of support and training for your staff, this provides better outcomes for the people getting treatment here and a better retention rate for your staff members.
Absolutely. It's a trickle-down effect. If our staff is happy, if they want to be here, if they enjoy doing what they're doing, our clients are going to feel that. They're going to have a better experience. And ideally from that, they're going to have a better outcome. The reality is this is outpatient treatment that we're in right now. Our clients choose whether they come here every day. That's a choice that they have. And we know that this is working because our attendance rates are through the roof. They're much higher than the industry norm. And that's been very rewarding for us to see that what we're doing is working.
Yes, because so often I work with families and individuals all the time, and they say, oh gosh, I've got to go to outpatient and it's so boring and I hate where I'm going. But people love it here. So you must be doing something right.
We think so.
Yeah.
We think so.
So I want to hear about your 4 facilities. So we've been talking about Birmingham Recovery Center, but I want to hear more about Longleaf Wellness, which is new, and then your facility in Huntsville, the outpatient, and then your new place in Baldwin County near Mobile. So why don't you tell us more about Longleaf Wellness?
Yeah. So, well, I want to start with back in January of last year is when we formed Longleaf Recovery and Wellness. So Longleaf Recovery and Wellness is kind of our main parent company at this point. And how that came to be is we saw what we were doing over at Birmingham Recovery Center, and we knew that it was working, and we wanted to take this to other parts of the state. So again, we're an outpatient program. We're a commuter program. We were treating the people of Birmingham. But we started getting people driving down from North Alabama daily to come to our program. And that was kind of the beginning of, oh, wow, there's other parts of the state that need these programs as well. And that was when we formed Longleaf. And Longleaf is a partnership between Birmingham Recovery Center, Live Development, which is a phenomenal Birmingham-based, privately owned company here in Birmingham that does grade A luxury apartments in multiple states. As well as EBSCO Industries, which is another phenomenal Alabama, Birmingham-based, privately owned company. For them, this was an important social investment. They really believed in what we were doing at BRC and wanted us to expand our reach. And so we put together Longleaf and came up with a plan to do these additional 3 programs. And that started with Longleaf Wellness. Longleaf Wellness is a primary mental health outpatient treatment center here in Birmingham. And Longleaf, we were getting a number of phone calls at BRC from people who didn't necessarily have a substance use issue, but they were having a primary mental health issue.
And did a lot of these calls and requests come during and after COVID?
Yes, very much so. Saw a major pickup. We opened BRC kind of right on the tail end of COVID. And so that was a very interesting time to open a program. But there was a massive, the demand skyrocketed towards in the middle of COVID, towards the end of it. We're still seeing the impacts of that today. But the biggest issue we were running into with these calls of people having a mental health issue is we had nowhere to send them. We thought we had a lack of substance use options here. It was even worse for mental health options. And it's been, Longleaf Wellness has been open for probably about 3 months now, and the demand has already far exceeded anything that we had initially imagined.
I'm sure. And now tell me a little bit about what's going on in Huntsville.
In Huntsville, so we opened Longleaf Recovery Huntsville, which is a primary substance use program, just like BRC. Our goal with that location, as well as Longleaf Recovery Baldwin, which is down in Baldwin County, just across the bridge from Mobile. We know what we've done at BRC is working, and it's a phenomenal model. And we wanted to take that substance use model to both of those locations. And that's what we did. The fun thing about those 2 locations is, BRC was an existing space that it was a wedding and event venue that we came into and made what we wanted. Those 2 locations we designed from the ground up with the help of Live Development, which that's what they do. And they are 2 beautiful, phenomenal facilities that are set up perfectly for what we do.
You told me the story of why you call it Longleaf.
Yeah.
So I want you to share that with our listeners because it made me want to cry when I heard it.
The longleaf pine tree is the state tree of Alabama. I grew up an outdoorsman. My father's a big outdoorsman and always kind of taught me about the land and how to manage it and take care of it. And through that, I learned about the longleaf pine. And what's really interesting about it is that after a fire, if it's a controlled burn or a wildfire and everything underneath the pines burns, the longleaf pine actually comes back stronger. It grows faster. It feeds off that fire, which I thought was a very, very interesting parallel to recovery.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
We get stronger after the fire of our lives, the disaster that we created. When we think that we're done, we actually rise like a phoenix out of the ashes.
Absolutely. I wouldn't give up anything about the journey that I've been on. I wouldn't change anything at this point.
That's what we all say. And I still have friends say to me, gosh, how did you make it through? And wouldn't you go back and change everything? And I say, I wouldn't change anything.
Not one thing.
Because it makes us who we are today, right?
I couldn't agree more. And it's on top of that, those are the people that I aligned with, people who understand struggle, who've been there. Struggle is the human condition. And it's very rare at this point in time. It's wild to me that we even still have discussions about stigma, because it's rare to meet someone who hasn't been affected by this in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it be themselves, a loved one, family, friends, somewhere within their circle. Everyone's been touched by this in some way.
I have always said from the beginning of my activism in this space, which has been the better part of 15 years, I have always said that addiction affects every single American family in one way or the other. And while it affects tens of millions of Americans, an equal number of us are in recovery.
Yep. So true.
And isn't that a beautiful thing?
It really is. It really, really, really is.
Yeah. Colin, our time is almost up. What do you want listeners to get out of this podcast today?
I think it's navigating this world of substance use and mental health treatment is very complicated. It is something that my family struggled with early on in the beginning with me. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know who to turn to. They didn't know how to get the right information about where to send their son. And, most people go straight to Google. And sometimes that works out. Sometimes it doesn't. The reality is that there's quality treatment out there, but there's also there's not as well. And an important thing for us is helping people navigate this world and figure out what's the best fit for them. We do free treatment consultations. Not everyone is a good fit for our programs. It's important to us to get people to where they need to be. So we want people to call us, to come sit down with us, to come meet come to our facility, sit down with one of our program directors or one of our therapists and talk about what's been going on and figuring out what's going to work for you. Do we need to go to residential treatment? Does it need to be substance use treatment or primary mental health? What's going to be the best fit? We want to help you get there. So anyone that's listening that could be struggling or have a loved one that's struggling, reach out to us, reach out to anyone. This is possible. This is doable. People get through this. They come out the other side stronger, better, growing faster, like the Longleaf. So I would just encourage people to reach out for help.
The most important thing is to know that you are not alone. You shouldn't go through this alone, and you don't have to.
I couldn't agree more, Laurie.
Colin Harris, the CEO of Longleaf Recovery and Wellness in Birmingham. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for listening to One Day at a Time, a Yellowhammer News podcast presented by Longleaf Recovery and Wellness. Be sure to follow Yellowhammer News on Instagram, Facebook, and X. And follow me, Laurie Dhue, on Facebook and Instagram.